Compelling stories are not hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Join your host, Dr. Eric Shaw, prosecutor Ryan Frank, writer Adrian Bonenberger, and comedian Ryan Connor as they interview ordinary people about their extraordinary experiences. This is Baggage.
Hi, and welcome to Baggage. It's just me and Ryan Frank tonight. We are honored to have some local Denverites with me here. I'd like to introduce Cheryl and Scott. They are a brother and sister team. This is our, we just did a twofer episode before this, but this is our next one here. They are from my Denver community here, and they have a rough one to hear tonight. This story does involve some stories of assault and trauma, and this is definitely not for the faint of heart here. The reason I wanted both of them on here is, Cheryl is the main protagonist of this story, but I thought it'd be interesting to have both of them on here to hear not only how the events of this story affected Cheryl, but how it affected the people around her and the family dynamics moving forward from even when they were children to now in adulthood. So thank you for coming on, Cheryl and Scott. Cheryl, I'll let you start things off here.
Oh, well, thank you for having me, Ryan and Eric. I guess I can just go back to the beginning of when so I was living a normal life pretty much. For me, I was a very good student. I went to an all-girls Catholic school. I never really had trauma or witnessed, I guess, craziness like I did that night that I was working at a fast food restaurant in Denver. I just got off of school and I told my dad I, had to work that evening because my manager, I was very loyal to him. He was a really good manager. And he's like, Cheryl, can you just work this last shift? And then I know that your dad wants you to work on weekends. And so I went that night. It was a Tuesday. And I do remember the date was August 25th. And so I rode my bike. I went to work and I was finishing because my duties were the front end. I would help close the tills and help anything that they needed cleaned up with. And I heard some commotion in the back of the restaurant. And when I went back there, one of the coworkers was standing there and a man had a gun at her neck. And I froze. At first I thought I was kind of like in a dream. I'm like, is this really happening? And it was an older lady. And I think she had a panic attack and kind of fell. So the man was right in front of me and he came toward me and grabbed me with the gun. Everybody was obviously freaking out because we were closing, and the cook came out and then the other attendant that was like cleaning the tables, and the guy, he had the gun on me and he's like, everybody, we need to go. Some of this stuff is a little foggy, but I do remember we all had to go down. He made us go downstairs, and he did say that he, wanted nothing to really do with the manager. So when we went down, there was like this storage cage, and it was, it had a lock. And so he did lock us all in there, and he was screaming that if somebody didn't, help him find the money, he was going to kill us. And my manager was like, take me, please. I don't want you to hurt my team. And he said, I don't trust you. And then I was really the only one that knew kind of where the money was and the safe. And I said I would go because I didn't want anybody to get hurt. I didn't know what was going to happen, but everything did happen. And he did take me up and we got the money. And then he was like doing something, and he went back down to where they were, the downstairs. And I heard him yelling, give me keys, give me keys. And then I was shaking there, and then he came back up and we got in a red Volkswagen Bug. I remember that. It was another coworker's. We were driving down 6th Avenue, and there was one point he asked me if I've ever been with a guy, and I didn't say anything. I never really answered, and I just would say yes, no, whatever. But there was one point at one stop sign I wanted to jump out, but I was so afraid because the gun was pretty big. Okay. So then we were going to, and I knew that area because I've lived there for many years. We went to East Colfax, and we went to a hotel there. And he pulled in and he was like, okay, we're going to stay here. You're going to sit in this car. And we pulled up and I saw exactly where we were because we were right at the front. It's near a 7-Eleven. And he said, you're going to stay here. I'm going to go into this. You see that lady right there? If you do anything, I'll kill her. You stay right here. Now, mind you, I was very naive, 16, did not know what was happening. I just said a prayer. I said, God, I don't want that lady to get hurt or myself. So I'm just going to listen to this guy. So he goes in and I remember it was a young, small Asian lady. And he comes out and then we go up this like maze stair and it kept going. Well, we go in this room and I was there what seemed to be for about a day, but I think it was about maybe 3-4 hours, maybe. I don't know. And the man did rape me. There's a lot of other things, probably keep those to myself. I just, kept saying, I just want to get out of here. And I wanted to get out of there because I was like, I have to go to school tomorrow. That's my thought. Anyway, started going out down this hall and then we went down these stairs and I heard him say something and I had my face toward this door and I heard him say, you can drive, right? And I said, yeah, I did not know how to drive. He threw those keys down. And then I waited for about 3 minutes or so and he goes, you don't turn around for a while. You just stay there. And then as soon as you just count, I can't remember what he said, stay there or count or whatever, but I stayed there for a little bit. And then I just waited for a minute and then I grabbed the keys and I kind of could sense that he wasn't right there. And I turned around and I looked and then I kind of ran up the stairs and I ran to that car, got in that car. Mind you, I never drove and I was trying to get that car. It was a stick shift and it kept going. And then I waited for a minute and then I was like, just didn't want to move for a while. I was like frozen. And so my sense of, I don't want to say survival, my sense of I just wanted to go home. It's like, just stop here, go and get help. And so I went to that 7-Eleven and the lady in there, she would not help me. I was bleeding from my pants and there was a payphone at that time because this was a long time ago. And I called I think I did a collect call my dad and I think the authorities were there. It was just so quick. The paramedic came and they're like, you're safe. And I kind of just, that moment, I just didn't do much. And then I went to the hospital. I survived all that, but the aftermath of it was the most because, my thinking was I wanted to save people and I didn't say myself because I kind of torment myself that I always volunteered for that. It was just told by my family I shouldn't have worked or I, shouldn't volunteer. And that's always been in my mind. I've gone through a lot of my self-help saying, it could have been a lot worse. People could have died. I never thought I was a hero. I just was a survivor. And I don't know what happened. Like, I know my brother was there for me. I know he didn't know how to handle it. Our family did not know how to handle it. And I don't blame anybody now, but it was really hard because felt very alone. I was told when I went back to school, do not talk about it. The teachers, you can't tell anybody what happened to you. And I didn't discuss it with anybody really. And then the one thing that I'll say that I had a really good victim advocate through Denver County. I think her name was Eileen. I don't remember. She was like really nice to me. And then we are prosecuting, or the DA at the time was Mr. Ritter, and he was really good to me. And my dad, I just remember it was my dad that went. My dad was always there, like, through the trial and stuff, because I had to go to the lineup and all that stuff. And I, was just a 16-year-old girl. It dawns on me a lot of the times because you see so much stuff and people talk about it, but our family just we didn't talk about it.
One of the things that stands out to me so much with this is that age 16, where so much is on you at 16, where you're expected to start to act like an adult. Mm-hmm. And then you're just pretending you're going through the motions. You're still in your mind and in your heart, so much still a child.
Right.
And to have to go through this and all of a sudden have all this thrust on you at that age just seems like such an awful time. Not that there's ever a good time for this, but just an exceptionally fragile time where things can be so pivotal.
Mm-hmm. And there is no training, there's no education to prepare anybody for something like that. I'm so sorry that you went through that.
Thank you.
Let me ask you about, I guess, the culture at the time, the culture in your family. Was this something that had ever been talked about before? Something that did any family members know anybody that had gone through a sexual assault? How foreign was this to you at 16?
Foreign. No, I didn't know anybody. The only thing I knew of is I watched a kind of a survival story on, I think it was like, how this was in the early 80s, they'd have like survival stories on like ABC or something. I watched one about a girl that was kidnapped. She survived because she didn't like fight back. She was just very kind of like mute, and that's kind of like what I just did to survive. That's the only thing I ever saw about. I didn't really know about rape or things like this because I don't know, maybe I was sheltered in a way, which was maybe good, but yeah, I think it was the shock of living a somewhat normal life. I mean, our parents were divorced, but I always felt safe in the world. I really did. Even riding the bus, RTD bus, seeing wackadoos, but I never felt scared.
Cheryl, let me give you a break for a second and ask you, Scott, when did you find out, and speak for the family, when did the family find out what had happened? Was it in piecemeal or was it all at once?
I mean, we found out right away. So I think this robbery of the restaurant happened at about 9 p.m. I got a phone call the next morning. As Cheryl mentioned, our parents were divorced. We came from seemed like a pretty normal American family, but we did have a divorce, and then we'd actually even had a second divorce just before this happened. So our mother had married a man who was a really great stepfather we had, and they didn't make it. But so we'd been through a couple of divorces, and those were devastating and very difficult to go through. But I can tell you without a doubt that there's 5 of us, our parents, mom and dad, and our other sister, our older sister. And I think for all 5 of us, certainly for Cheryl, obviously, and I can say for me, this is the defining moment. This changed the course of our lives.
Let me first ask you, where are you in the litter? Are you the
I'm
little
the
brother?
second.
You're the second. Okay.
Yeah. So Cheryl is my little sister.
I see. The baby.
Yeah, definitely the baby, and like the quintessential baby sister. My older sister, who's 3.5 years older than me, she always describes our situation like, she says, I'm in all of the pictures. My older sister says I'm dressed like a tomboy, and little Cheryl is this little princess with long, curly golden hair, and she was the absolute the stereotypical baby sister. She was an overachiever. What she won't say about herself, but I'll tell you, is that she was at St. Mary's Academy, which is probably the most prestigious school in Colorado, certainly for girls. It was, really awesome that she was there, and she was a straight A student and wanted to go to medical school. And frankly, and I wanted to choke her half the time because she made us look bad, right? She was getting good grades and was going to be an MD. I mean, she had told us at the time she was going to be a doctor, is what she wanted to do, and was definitely on that path. So anyway, how I found out, I got a phone call at about noon the next day. And I'll never forget the words. I was at a payphone. I know exactly where I was at. I was at a gas station in Evergreen called Anderson's Market. And I had gotten paged, had a pager at the time, to call my mom. So I was 17. Cheryl had just turned 16, and I was just about to turn 18, but I was 17. And when my mom answered, she said, it was strange what she said. She said, now, she goes, I don't want you to freak out. Cheryl is here with me and everything's okay. And I was like, okay, that's a strange way to start a conversation.
Why would I freak out? Right.
And she told me what happened. Yeah, and I just remember, I mean, this is not something we've talked about, but anyway, I just remember standing there at Anderson's, and I took that payphone and I just started beating the hell out of it. I mean, I just was overcome with rage, just fury that I had never felt before. And I started driving to where they were. Cheryl was at my mom's house. And I was driving down the road, and my face must have been the color of your shirt, just beet red, and tears and just fire coming out of every part of my body. And I remember someone looking at me on the side of the road, and I looked at this guy and I go, what the fuck are you looking at? Man, I was just, it was horrible. Sorry about that. Anyway.
That's a very understandable emotion.
And I
Yeah.
didn't know that. This
Yeah.
is new to
This
me.
is this is wild because I'm going to tell you guys right now that Cheryl, what happened next is I went to my mom's and I sat on the couch with my older sister, and we sat there and we were crying, and I went in to see Cheryl, and I laid down with her on the bed and kind of put my arm around her, and she woke up and she said, "I'm hungry. I want to get something to eat." And this is probably about 1:00 and I said, "All right, I'll take you." And so her and I left together. This is less than 12 hours after this had happened. Her and I left together, and we went to Loaf and Jug up in Evergreen, went to get a slice of pizza. And I can still remember, just thinking back to this, like now, because I look at young kids that were our age at the time, a 16-year-old girl and her 17-year-old older brother. We sat down over a piece of pizza, and matter of factly, without any tears or anything, Cheryl just sat across from me and told me everything that happened. And I just sat there and I was like, damn, I couldn't believe it,
Cheryl, do you remember that conversation?
I don't.
I'm wondering if you were like still in shock. Were you still processing? Like, I wonder where you were at in that time frame.
What I do remember is that I wanted to go home with my dad, but my mom was insistent that I went up there with her to Evergreen. And I do remember my brother coming, but I don't ever remember my sister there. I do remember I got really sick because they gave me that Plan B at the hospital, which was terrible. I didn't want it, but I didn't know. I wish I would never had that, but I just remember crying by myself in the bathtub. I don't really remember my mom hugging me. I do remember my brother hugging me, but I don't remember my sister.
Yeah, she was definitely in shock because, like I said, when she sat across from me and told me the story, there was no emotion. She wasn't crying. It was just like a conversation, just telling me what had happened.
I don't remember that, but a lot of this, I'm grateful that you're here, Scotty, because it was always from my perspective, and I kind of sometimes felt growing up selfish that I never asked, because to me, I just thought we shouldn't talk about it.
Before we go too far into kind of the weeks and months and years afterwards, remind me, they caught the guy relatively quickly. Is that correct?
Yes.
Can you kind of pick up from there? Like how did that go with like the trial and the prosecutors and all that sort of stuff?
I do know that they didn't find him right away. There was another lady that was raped from the same guy, and she was telling me what happened, what he did to her. We kind of talked because of the victim advocate, but she was really nicely. So we had to write victim statements and if we had to go to trial. But anyway, let me back up. So they did catch him about 2 weeks later. He was from Detroit, Michigan. And I want to tell you honestly, I did not realize this, and I didn't find this out until probably 3 years ago when the state of Colorado asked me to have a reconciliation, I guess. I don't know what the word is. It's like perpetrators meet with their victims and you try to talk and work things out. Yeah.
Who brought that up?
State of Colorado. This was like 3 years ago. But anyway, wow. I'm retracking. I'm sorry. I didn't tell anybody.
I'd like to hear more about that. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's the first I've heard of that.
So they found him, Denver police. He was in a drug raid. But at the time when I was that young, I thought he was like a 40-year-old man. I had no idea. He was only 23 when he did this, 23 or 24. But they found him. There was a lineup. I had to go to the lineup. And then that's where I, saw that lady again. She told me what happened with her. We kind of talked and stuff. And then they had a pre-trial where we did go. My dad and I went. And all I remember is what he looked like from the back. I told her, and she told me we weren't going to look at him. And we promised we weren't going to look at him. So when we went there, he went ahead and pled guilty to everything. There was never a trial, which was a blessing for me. We never had a trial. So he was just sentenced, like, I think 3 weeks later, maybe. And wow. he did get a full sentence. And I haven't really followed him too much because...
So he's still incarcerated?
Yes.
Okay. After this happened, you said it was a couple weeks they caught him in a drug raid. Did they know who they were looking for? Did they identify, like, we know who we need to look for, the guy we're looking for?
No, I think that when they got him, I think that he was in the, probably had done other things because he was, I know for one thing, with the rape kit. That's how they identified him.
I see. Forensically, they matched him.
Forensic. Yeah. Forensic.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
And I mean, I will tell you that I don't want to say I'm a lucky person, but those 2 weeks that he wasn't found, I was on edge all the time. He's out there. Is he going to, I had dreams and stuff, but I was always just like, I have very strong faith. I was like, you'll be okay. God's got you. And that I just prayed a lot. But when he was out, then when they, finally went through the case, thank goodness there was no trial. They had so much evidence. But what I recall is he got over 100 years because the big thing was because there was a kidnapping, the length, and then the weapon for my case. And I know that there was other victims. I don't know if it was in this state, other states, but I know for sure in this state, at least 3.
Well, I think you know this, and I can say unequivocally, the fact that you were able to participate in that unquestionably saved more women, because this is something that someone like that doesn't stop. So
I do believe that.
I mean, science will back that up. The numbers will back that up. You absolutely are responsible for saving other people from this. Was it like a reconciliation that you've been you reached out to, or?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So who would try to contact you? The government, the state of Colorado?
Yes, state of Colorado did. They did this, and I recall, and I know exactly the day I got the email, because I was working as a florist, and I got the email, and I was like, this is right after, it was in 2023. I think I might even have that email, but I know that's probably doesn't matter now, but I kept thinking about going back and forth, and I was like, okay, I need a sign. And I had dreams about meeting him and what I would say, and then I finally was like, I'm just going to let that go. I don't need him to take my peace away from me. You know what I mean? So I was like, nope, not doing it. And when I wrote the reply or the rebuttal back to the victim's advocate, I just said it very simply. My life is fine right now, and I wish y'all never to contact me again, and they haven't.
That's a lot not to that. There've been a hard go fuck yourself.
I would have had some choice words there.
You said it. I wanted to say it. But
that's so tone deaf. Like, I can't believe anybody would do that. I mean, I've heard stories about murder victims or things like that, or the families will like approach the government and saying like, we'd like to do this, but not the other way around. Not approaching someone who has never offered anything like this, and particularly in a nature where it is just like affected every aspect of your life moving forward. How dare they do that to you?
That is very ignorant. It's not very trauma informed. Whoever came up with this plan or bill or whatever has never talked to a trauma therapist, because that is crazy and offensive. I know. I'm sorry. And then, God, to be.
Oh, yeah. And the gal, she called me a couple times.
Wow.
I'm angry for you. That's bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah. Man.
And they've reached out to me a couple times because, the parole thing. I mean, if there's anything like that, I don't know how that works, because maybe because you're a prosecutor and the legal. If in the case was, he had one case, it was he was sentenced to this. He was sentenced to my case because I was under 18 and there was a weapon involved. But Scotty doesn't even know this. I told my mom about this, and she's like, "Oh, are you thinking about going to see him?" I'm like, "Hell no." But then again, I was like, "Well, is it therapeutic to see him?" And like I said, I had the dreams, and I kept saying I just couldn't do it.
I feel like we've jumped a decade or more from the beginning of the story.
I know.
Can we rewind back, and following in the year or two, or the 5 to 10 years afterwards? How did this affect your life moving forward?
Well, let me go back further than that. I was actually thinking, and you're right, I jumped way over. I got so pissed off at the idea of the government reaching out. The weeks following that, you already talked about the weeks where he was before he had been captured, and you had said earlier about when you went back to school, teachers were telling you can't tell anybody. When did you go back to any type of quote unquote normalcy, and what was expected of you when you did that?
Well, I stayed at St. Mary's for a couple weeks. There was another girl right after that. And her family was very affluent family in Cherry Hills. And she was in a tragic accident. I mean, like, a rape, sexual assault on the beach I think she was in Aruba or Hawaii or whatever. She came and told me because I only had one really good friend that I told what happened, and her said something. And then she came to me and talked to me, and she was kind of told the same thing. Don't really talk about it. I mean, this was in 1986, 87, I think. And then after that, unfortunately, the next week I had a friend, her and I got into a car accident, downtown Denver. I don't know if you remember that, Scotty. And then my mom was like, no more, you're coming up to Evergreen. You're not going to stay in downtown Denver. And so then I started school back in Evergreen. And that's when I didn't tell really anybody what had happened to me. I had a couple friends that my brother knew, and I just tried to make peace with things within. And that year, my senior year, high school, it was pretty normal, actually. I made it to be.
It's a bad joke. I've seen so many like memes and bumper stickers recently where it's like Generation X raised on hose water and neglect. And I feel like this kind of encompasses that of just like back when we grew up, it was just like, no, something bad happened. No,
It's
it didn't.
true.
No, you just pack it in, pack it down, and move on
Suck
with
it up,
life. We're not going to talk about
right.
this because it's either people will think differently of you, or people will think differently of our family. And there's just so many of those things that went involved with this. And like, I think our parents were trying, and they were probably better than their parents, where it was just like, this is, you'll be punished if you talk about it back then. Whereas I think now it's, I don't want to say people are an open book, but people will like lead with these things now. Be like, oh, I was a victim and I did this and I survived. And whereas like this was for you was, taboo to talk about or embarrassing to talk about. And that's just amazing how things have changed so much.
What about your coworkers? Did you talk to them after this? Did you go back to work? Was there any kind of, I don't know, finding out more information from them?
I mean, the one girl, her name was, she's the one who, and she was the lady the car was stolen. So I think there was because that's grand theft auto also on top of that. So I think maybe she had to write a victim advocate statement too, but, or victim statement. And then I don't know what proceeded there with her case, if it was involved or what. I never asked about that. And then I think I wrote a letter because he was just he and his wife were the managers at the restaurant. And I just get teary-eyed because they were the nicest. They were Christian. They were just the nicest couple ever. And I know he felt terrible because I really think that he was like, I don't care. He did not want that guy to take me. And I wish I would have been able to keep in touch with him, but I think my family was protecting me and saying, no, that we're not going to do that. But I always think of him from time to time. And then I did have the victim advocate reach out to me and had me, the restaurant, I won't say the name, but they gave us some money for me to go to like a therapist for a while. And I don't know if it was a joke or why in the hell they did that. The guy that did that to me, they sent me to the therapist with the same freaking last name. Jesus. I'm like, Mom,
as the offender?
Isn't that stupid? Yeah. And I told my mom, I go, I don't want to do that. She goes, she didn't know. So, I mean, I'm trying to give her some grace here too, because it was a lot going on. But she's like, well, you're going because that's it, $300 and just go. And this lady was crazy. I'm like, I think there was 2, maybe 3 times that I had to go and see her. And I told my mom, I refuse to go. I don't need to go. I'll just I'll go on a bike ride. I am not going back to that lady. She's crazy. And so then we got a little bit of money, she thought about suing the restaurant. And I was like, no, I don't want to do this. I'm not into that. And so then that kind of went away. And then nothing else really came of like money or anything. And I didn't really want to talk about it anymore, actually. I just wanted to like forget it.
That was a big conflict with our parents. And my mom signed a liability release, and my dad was furious.
Oh, yeah.
About that. He still will bring that up.
What do you feel about that night? What the situation was at the restaurant? Could the restaurant have done something? Could your manager have done something? Was there something that went wrong?
One thing we did not do is take the trash out receptacle at night. And if we did, we took it out together. The gal that was there, the older lady, she wanted to take the trash. I don't know if she's trying to be like over helpful, which was a nice gesture, but she opened that door, the back door, which we weren't supposed to do at night. And she opened it. And that's when he came in. Because usually they did the trash in the morning. I mean, it was Capitol Hill, wasn't the best area. But to me, I didn't think I thought it was fine. I had no idea that was a dangerous neighborhood. I really didn't. I love living there.
So this was on 6th Avenue in Logan in Denver. And about 3 blocks down from that, my dad's house ended up buying a house about 5 blocks away from there. So about 3 blocks down from there was a place called the Old Mexican Cafe, where when I was in high school, about probably 2 or 3 years later, I was cooking in that kitchen. And the guy, I had left there by this time, but not too long after I left working there, this guy, Jim, who owned that restaurant, was murdered in the parking lot while he was being robbed, like 2 blocks away from. Yeah, so not the best.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Denver in the 80s was a little rough.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was. I was just like girl going to an all-girls school. I loved going to school. I had no fear at all.
Scott, Cheryl goes back to school. What are your thoughts and feelings during that time period?
Yeah, this rocked me, because just, I'm protective by nature. I think a lot of guys, most guys are protective of their little sister. Like, I'll tell you what, you touch, someone would have hit my little sister, they're going to get their ass beat. It was extremely hurtful. I was consumed with rage for probably 20 or more years. I was in my 40s. I actually had kind of a breakdown in my 40s where I finally was able to let go. But for all of those years, like through my 20s, if you had talked to me about it, I would say, just put me in a room with him. I don't need any weapons. I mean, I wanted to go chimpanzee on him. I mean, I had fantasies about it, about tearing him apart with my bare hands. That's how I felt. And I'm sure you being a prosecutor, you probably hear that but it's a weird thing to feel that, but to really feel it, like if I would have had the chance, it would have happened. I would have tore him to pieces. But then, like when I had this kind of breakdown in my 40s, I finally came to peace over it, because what I realized was a couple things. Is that if I did kill the guy, that's not going to put the toothpaste back in the tube. It's not going to make anything better for anybody. It's just going to make everything worse. And also, I kind of, in my own mental way of dealing with, I said, man, this is like a wound. It's like an open wound that I've got to accept it. And that's why I wanted to kill him, because I wanted to reject it. I didn't want this to happen. And if I were to have done that, obviously that wouldn't, I just needed to let it heal. And so it did. And the other interesting story I'll tell you, we had an uncle, my mom's younger brother, his name was Uncle Rick. And Uncle Rick was an old hippie from the 70s. He was the dude, like from
Lebowski.
Big time. Yeah, Uncle Rick reminds me of the dude big time. He's died now, but Uncle Rick had never married and had no kids, and lived in New Mexico making silver jewelry with turquoise. That was his entire life down there. And
that is the dude. Yeah.
His eyes got this big, and he said, I'm coming to Colorado, and I'm going to go commit a crime, and I'm going to go to prison, and I'm going to find this son of a bitch. I mean, Uncle Rick was serious. He was coming up here
I didn't know that.
to do crime and get into the prison system so he could find him. He was on a manhunt.
Oh man, he was dedicated.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
wow.
he wanted to come up here to get himself in trouble, to go to prison and go find this guy, is what his plan was.
Because he had been in jail once, I think, Uncle Ricky.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's crazy. And he probably would have done it too.
So Cheryl, I imagine therapy in the 80s was a lot different than it is nowadays. What support structures have you sought out, and what has been helpful to you?
I'll be honest. I'm not a good patient. I'm not going to lie. I love medicine. I was grateful that I ended up getting a pretty good job at Kaiser for about 20 years. It's like Scotty said, I wanted to go into medicine. And I don't want to say that, I do say that trauma changed my life, my direction of where I wanted to go in my career and all. I did a few therapy, and it seemed to me that some of the therapists, and I don't want to doubt, because I know therapy helps a lot of people, they would tend to, you need to take this and take a pill or whatever. I'm not gonna. I'll be truthful. I struggled with an eating disorder for a while, drinking, self-loathing, but I've come a long way since that. It's like Scotty in my 40s. I think that it just built something inside of me that I'm going to handle this and handle it. And I did for a long time. For me, I feel that I'm a Christian, so I pray a lot. I do curse and I have to forgive myself sometimes, and I get mad and I get angry about it. And I'm like, I wish that wouldn't have happened because I would have been a doctor or a nurse or whatever in medicine. But I just kind of retract back. And I did, I thought that it would be nice because they have like AA and eating disorder. I don't really think that they have a lot of victims. Let's get together and talk about people who have been raped or sexual assault. You don't talk about it. You talk to one person who maybe has never ever had that happen to them. Maybe someday with this, I can find, other people that have, common experience and just not be so, I'm not trying to take this away, be so serious about it, but be kind of light about it and say, we are okay. And I don't like the word I'm a victim or a survivor. It happened to me. I feel very grateful that I survived because, I have a wonderful husband. I have 3 kids. A lot of, good things have still happened in my life because, like you said, maybe I did prevent other assaults. So therapy, back to that, I know it was a long-winded answer, but no, it didn't really help me.
It sounded like you might have seen a psychiatrist because if you were getting prescriptions and things like that, most therapists are not going to be resulting to medication. And after this episode, if you want, I can reach out to some resources that can connect you. I guarantee you, whatever you want, groups, talking to other women that experience this, I guarantee you in your area, those are options at your discretion. So I'll get in touch with you after this.
I would give my 2 cents on that. I think that Cheryl, I think you would benefit from it. This changed the course of her life dramatically. There is no doubt in my mind. Having watched her live her life now, it's been, God, has it been 40 years? It's been almost 40 years since this happened.
Yeah.
And over those 40 years, it has been a real struggle. Things have been good for the past 6, 8, 10 years. There was a shit ton of chaos between here and there. Let me tell you.
Ryan, you had sent me some statistics that I think I'd heard similar ones before we did this episode. Can you pull those up again? Just because I think it's meaningful to hear this in raw data numbers about how many women are sexually assaulted and how little this is talked about, and just talking about these like support groups and stuff like that. Because when you hear these numbers, it's going to blow your mind that this is not just an everyday conversation and that there's not support groups out there that are like advertised or just more apparent, because like it's just shocking when you hear this.
It really is. We already touched on it. In the 80s, there's a culture of you don't talk about this. There's still very much a culture of not talking about this. And it is wild, the numbers. Globally, the World Health Organization says 1 in 3 women, roughly about 30% of women have experienced physical or sexual violence in their lifetime. 1 in 3. And then in the United States, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention show that more than 1 in 5 women have experienced completed or attempted rape. That's 1 in 5 women that you've ever met have gone through something akin to this. And do you know those women? Can you name them? No, obviously, because it's something that happens in the shadows. So there is, and I say this to you, Cheryl, and I say this to everyone else listening, everyone that has, men and women that have experienced sexual assault, there are thousands and thousands of people feeling also isolated, sometimes shame, guilt. There are a lot of people out there, an entire team, a support network that exists just to have a space to talk about it and work through it. And just last week, I was sitting across from, she was a 16-year-old girl, had been sexually assaulted in a case that I'm prosecuting. I asked him, I was like, so are you in therapy? And she goes, no, I'm good. I went to one session, but it wasn't, it's not for me. I'm okay.
Sounds like
and
me.
she seemed unaffected. And mom was sitting there shaking her head. And I said to her, the way I analogize it is, If I talking to the 16-year-old girl, if I give you my car keys, can you go out there and just check my spark plugs real quick? And she'd say, no, I don't know how to do that. I was like, exactly. And because you've never been taught that, this isn't something you're expected to know how to do. There are people that spend years learning how to help someone cope with this. It is their profession. No one can walk in to do my job or Eric's job, and no one is expected to go through something like you did and handle it themselves. So there is the right therapist for people, and there's the wrong therapist for people. So I would encourage people to try and try again, because there is just a lot of benefit to it. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
I'll add to that. I want to add to that too, though, Ryan, is to say that, being Cheryl's brother for all these years, and I've been an advocate for her. She's been through some tough times. I mean, I could tell some stories. I don't know if you want me to tell the story of when I rescued you probably 10 years ago. I don't know, but
Yeah, that's fine.
The Thanksgiving rescue.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I was here at my house with my family and with Cheryl's kids, and I got a phone call from Cheryl that the man she was living with was being violent with her. This was, 12 years ago. I don't know. It's been a while.
Oh, it's been a long time. Thank goodness. It seems like yesterday.
Yeah. But yeah, but it wasn't 25 years ago. It was 10,
right.
Maybe 10, 12 years ago. Yeah.
Right.
And so I said, I'm coming to get you. And I drove over there. And by the time I got there, she had gone back to the apartment where the two of them were in there together. And this poor man, I still feel sorry for him. He is a vicious alcoholic. I mean, this is a guy who wake up in the morning, and he was like leaving Las Vegas, right? Where he had to get some vodka in the morning in his system to stop shaking and be able to get up. And anyhow, when I got there, the two of them they were pretty drunk, and it was Thanksgiving night. And he said, and they were like, no, we're fine. I said, look, she's going with me. And I looked at him, and I knew exactly where to touch him. I said, hey, here's the deal. You're either going to jail, or you can stay here with that bottle of vodka and that pack of cigarettes, but she's going with me, one way or the other. And he turned to her and said, you probably should go.
Yep. That was the best thing I did.
Yeah. And that was the turnaround, right? I mean, I don't think you've had any drugs or alcohol since then, right? We packed her up and sent her to a treatment facility in Kansas, and she got straight, and she's been sober ever since. But the point I was going to make is that throughout that, I mean, there's been a lot of people through the years who've been very critical of Cheryl and her struggles. And I'm like, man, if you're in a fucking catastrophic accident and your leg is smashed to shit, you can get all the medical help you want, and you're still going to walk with a limp for the rest of your life. That's
a great analogy.
And what she had said to me several times, she said, I could be a lot worse. Yeah, maybe I could be better, but I could be worse too. And so, we've made do, and I can tell you, I am really happy that, we're both healthy. I went through a ton of substance abuse as well. And we're both healthy and happy in our 50s. And
yeah,
neither one of us have too much gray hair, right?
No.
The criminal case, what did that do for you as far as, did it give you any closure? Was it disappointing? What was your experience of going through that?
I thought, when I heard over 100 years, I knew that he would be in prison he'd die there. So that, I was happy about that, because I was glad that, he would never do that to someone else.
How many victims do you think he had?
Do you remember, Scotty? I think there was 4 or 5.
6, I think. I think it's 6.
I don't honestly remember. Sure at least 3. Oh, okay. Because he may have had this done, I think, in the state of Michigan.
I saw 6 cases in the state of Colorado.
They kept saying he did it because he was on high on cocaine, and that's why he did it.
My answer to when people say that is, there are drug addicts that resort to crime, and then there's criminals that like to do drugs. And someone that's going to violently assault an innocent 16-year-old girl.
Yeah.
He's a rapist.
He's a rapist.
Yeah,
he's not a drug addict.
Yeah, he's a rapist. Mm-hmm.
I don't have any intentions or desires to kill him anymore, but I do keep one eye on him. And if there's a parole hearing, I'll be there to make sure. For Cheryl and also for my parents. She's mentioned my dad a couple of times. My dad is a proud man, graduate of Wentworth Military Academy, and the guilt, the crushing guilt that he felt for allowing her to go to work that night. He's told me so many times that he should have never let her. He knew better. to let her be out. And he's had to carry that guilt his whole life. And then my mom too. And my mom caring for Cheryl, Cheryl does not remember how bad she was right after.
Scott, you have 3 daughters and I have a daughter. And this is something that, not to make a bad joke, but, they always say, like, if you have a boy, you only have to worry about one dick. If you have a girl, you have to worry about all the dicks. And this takes us to a different level where, like, I think there's a paranoia or a worry to every dad who has a daughter about this sort of thing. And because you always want your daughter to be strong, you want them to be free, you want to have all these opportunities, you want them to do these things and grow up to be, have a normal experience. And you just don't want to think about this stuff, but it's always kind of there, always that little lingering worry. I can't imagine.
What did you tell me, Eric? That's why you're raising your daughter to be a badass.
Yes. Scott, what do I call my daughter?
The Beast.
Yeah.
Since she was born, you can ask my daughters. I've taught them, and I still talk to them about it. I'm like, there's no fucking around, man. Somebody tries to mess with you, you go goddamn badger, and you bite their fucking finger off, and the party's over. That's what you do. You get a finger in your mouth, and you bite that son of a bitch off. And I've been telling them that since they were little kids. And I've said that within a month.
I should probably cut this, but if it happens in my county, you have immunity. I did have a case actually one time where a father got a phone call from his wife because the landlord was caught in a compromising position with their 8-year-old daughter, I think.
Oh, gosh.
And and he was just a good blue collar dude, and he came right home and he found the guy, and the guy said, "I'm sorry." He was, I think the offender was probably in his 60s or something like that. He said, "I'm sorry," and he admitted to the dad that what he had done, and the dad started beating the living crap out of him. And he only stopped because what you said, Scott. He was like, "I'm about to go to prison for murder, and I need to be there for my daughters," and he stopped. So then that came up at sentencing, and the defense attorney, I don't know why, went into it and showed the mug shot where the perpetrator was all black and blue. He was like, "You did this," talking to the dad. And Dad's like, "Yep." And and he's like, "Why did you do this? What'd you do?"
Yeah,
and,
of course I did.
And the dad looks over at me, and I'm like, "You can answer, sir. You have immunity. You can go ahead and answer everything you did," because I think every father on the planet would completely understand why you did that. Yeah.
Have you seen I'm sure, Ryan, you have. I don't know if everyone else has. There's the video of the guy. His name's Gary. I just remember because the cop said, Gary, why? When they were walking the guy through the airport who had sexually assaulted his son, and the guy's by the payphone and turns around and shoots the guy in the head.
I remember that case.
You seen that video?
What was that? Yeah.
The thing that resonated for me after that is because his son, who had been sexually assaulted by the man, was really hurt by what his dad did. And I was like, whoa, because that kind of reflected back on me that because of what I wanted to do. And it kind of helped me with my resolution of it, that, it actually hurt his son that his father had killed that man.
Well, because, he lost something of himself with the trauma, but then he lost his dad because of his
I don't
actions.
think he went to jail.
And that's why I remember the story. I think it was, I can't remember if it was the prosecution's declining to prosecute or a jury acquitting him. I can't remember. It was something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheryl, thank you for sharing this. I know this has not been easy, and I know your journey has not been simple or easy. And I applaud you for sharing this, because I think more people need to hear this sort of thing.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I was a little bit on the fence about doing it when my brother told me, but I'm actually very grateful. I, believe it or not, feel kind of a little less, I don't know how to explain it, because I've really never talked about it, with, of course, my husband and some of my friends. But if I could touch somebody or have a shared experience, anything, this is a good thing for me. So thank you, guys.
I feel the same way. I feel it's almost like a relief having had that, because I've not been looking forward to it. We agreed to do it because Cheryl and I we've not had it talked about. It's always there in the background and whatever, and but we have not sat down and had a conversation about it since the day that I took her to Loaf and Jug. To be honest, we guys have been just out of sorts all day, not looking forward to this, not really wanting to do it, but somewhat therapeutic, I guess, to talk about it.
This was a little clarity, because I never asked my brother, well, what happened on you, through your eyes, or how did you feel? Because I guess I didn't want to know, but it gives me clarity too. So thank you, Scotty.
I think that's great evidence of it's always better to talk. And anyone else that's listening to this and made it through this and they're thinking about their own experience, I just want to point out the National Sexual Assault Hotline, 1-800-656-6473. There's always somebody to talk. And I guarantee you will be shocked by the amount of resources that are available out there to you and an entire network that's waiting to help you. So anybody that needs that, please reach out. Scott and Cheryl, thank you so much. It's really hard to have these talks, and I can't thank you enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
And on that note, I will plug for Ryan Connor, his book. You need to pre-order it because that determines the number of, he just found out, the number of first runs they're going to do for 12 Guys Walk Into a Kitchen. It's available on pre-order from Simon & Schuster. You can get his other book, The Party. It's very good. And then for his tour dates, check ryanconnorcomedy.com. Support the show if you like this and other episodes. We want to keep it going, but it's not free. And we also support charities. So charities like the Dear Jack Foundation, Lalaka, and Canine Companions, and others that we're making collaborations with. So if you think you want to donate to a good cause and support the show, go ahead and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or at the website, thebaggagepodcast.com. And with that, I think that's it for this episode. See you guys next time. Music for Baggage provided by Quincy Ledbetter. You can find his stuff at qledbetter.com. Graphics provided by Megan Weaver. You can find her at meganweaverart.com. Special thanks to our premium members for their support. You can become a premium member by clicking subscribe in your Apple Podcast app or by visiting thebaggagepodcast.com/support to sign up or to gift a membership to someone. A percentage of all proceeds go to charity. If you have any questions, comments, or a good story to share, please email us at thebaggagepodcast@gmail.com.